last week we looked at Daniel and how Daniel was being exalted to a very high position in the government, and other leaders under him didn't want him to have that position, and so they tried to find a reason to go against him, and they couldn't find anything. He was doing everything right. He was doing everything good. And so they thought the only way we can get him is to find a way that we can accuse him according to his relationship with God, according to the laws of his God. And so they passed a law about having to worship the king and not pray to anybody else. And Daniel went and prayed to God and was thrown into the lion's den. And of course, God rescued him. And we looked at that, and we were talking about in this theme of principalities, powers, rulers of darkness of this age, spiritual forces of wickedness in heavenly places, and how some of the ways that the enemy tries to attack. And we talked about last week how the enemy will try to make it illegal, make it against the law to be a believer, make it against the law to follow God. And we see that happening around the world. We see that happening even in our country now, where more and more belief in God, belief in the things of God, it's becoming wrong, politically incorrect, and even illegal more and more. They go against believers that make a stand for things that they believe in, and bring them to court and sue them and take away their businesses and all these different things that are happening even in our country. And of course, around the world, there's places where if you're a believer, they can kill you, and they're right and justified to kill you according to their laws. And how that's one of the ways that the enemy works. And another thing that the enemy does, and thinking of Esther as the backdrop for the message today, if you remember, Esther was brought into the king's palace, and the king really loved Esther, and she was queen, and she was in a very exalted position, but she was Jewish. They didn't know she was Jewish, but she was. And then she had the one that had raised her, Mordecai. Got his name right this time. And he was there, and Haman was in an exalted position, a very high position, and Mordecai wouldn't bow before him. And Haman just hated Mordecai and wanted to put him to death. And he built gallows to hang him from, and he had all this plan, and he put out a decree to kill all of the Jewish people because their laws were not the same as the laws of the king, is how he presented it to the king. And he paid a bribe, so to speak, for it. I think it was 10,000 pieces of silver he was going to pay to have them put to death. And he kind of tricked the king into signing this thing. And then Esther finally stands up and speaks for her people and is able to rescue them. And the famous line that Mordecai has for her is, perhaps you're there for such a time as this. And one of the things that we see, and one of the things that the enemy will do, is try to destroy that seed that's coming. If you remember going back to Adam and Eve in the garden, and what God said to Eve about her seed coming, and how the enemy would bruise his heel, but he would crush his head. And the serpent heard that. The serpent knew about that and was constantly going after the seed of man. Now, there's times that, God has a hedge of protection around it. If you remember Job, there's protection, and so there's only so much he can do, but he keeps trying to attack. Think about Moses when he's born in Egypt and what's happening there. What happened? The Egyptian Pharaoh was killing all the children and told the midwives, hey, when a male child is born, kill him. And the midwives, of course, being who they were, they loved life. That's why they were midwives. They loved bringing, and so they wouldn't do it. And then they went to Pharaoh. Oh, these women, they're so strong. They have the babies before we get there, and stuff. And he was having a hard time getting it to be passed, but that's what he was trying to do. He was trying to kill the male children. And then Moses was rescued in the water and raised in Pharaoh's temple, and even his mother was able to nurse him and raise him in Pharaoh's temple. Wow, what a powerful sign of God's protection and deliverance. But that's one of the things that the enemy will try to do, is to try to kill the offspring, kill the people. We see it today. We've seen it in history. You think of things like World War II, and what did Hitler try to do? He tried to exterminate the Jewish race. Look at today. You have so many countries and so many groups in the Middle East that they absolutely want to destroy Israel. They want to destroy America too, but they want to destroy Israel first and foremost. And even a proclamation like Jerusalem is the capital of Israel. which it doesn't take a genius to go, yeah, that's right. and look at the uproar that people, they're protesting and burning flags and doing all this crazy stuff because they hate the descendants of Israel. They hate God's people because they hate God and they want to go against him. And right now Iran and Russia, going right along with them, are working hard to destroy Israel, get nuclear weapons, and just absolutely wipe them out. Their desire is that there'll be no more Israelites, no more Jewish people. And this is something that has gone out throughout the history and continues to happen today. And it happens to believers too. As the bride of Christ, the enemy wants to kill us. He wants to destroy us or make us powerless. Anything he can do to steal, kill, and destroy who we are and what we're doing. And we see that in even the time of Jesus coming into this world as Emmanuel in Matthew chapter 2.